Something big is happening in Burkina Faso. Russian special forces have just touched down, but they didn't bring tanks or bombs. They're not here to start a war. They're here for one man, President Ibrahim Traoré. Why? Because just days ago, Traoré narrowly escaped an assassination attempt. Someone wanted him gone, badly, but he survived. Now, with danger still hanging in the air, Russia has stepped in like an unexpected bodyguard. But this raises a huge question. What does Russia see that the rest of the world is ignoring? Is it about protecting a friend? Or is there a deeper reason why Moscow suddenly cares about a small West African country? Burkina Faso is now caught in a storm of secrets, power struggles, and rising tension. Both outsiders and insiders seem to be playing a dangerous game, and President Traoré, he's right at the centre of it. So why does this strange new friendship between Russia and Burkina Faso matter right now? And what could it mean for the rest of Africa? Before we continue, we would like to ask you a question. If Captain Ibrahim Traoré were to contest to become the President of Africa, would you vote for him? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Things in Burkina Faso just got real. After dodging a major coup attempt, President Ibrahim Traoré made a bold move. He called in Russian special forces. Not to fight a war, but to keep him and his government safe. This isn't just some random decision. It's a sign that things behind the scenes are way more intense than most people realise. Traoré is under pressure from all directions. Since he took office back in September 2022, he's been juggling threats from within his own country and forces beyond its borders. The truth is, Burkina Faso has become a playground for dangerous armed groups, especially those roaming the Sahel region. These groups don't follow rules, and they're taking advantage of the chaos, hoping to grow stronger while the country struggles to stay on its feet. Now let's talk about the coup that almost changed everything. It wasn't just a few angry soldiers with a plan, this was serious. Insiders say the plot included not just military officers, some still active, others retired, but also armed rebel groups. Their goal? Break into the presidential palace, take control, and tear down everything Traoré had worked to build. But here's the twist. This wasn't only about grabbing power. It was about control over the country, over its resources, and over who gets to call the shots in West Africa. And if you dig a little deeper, there are whispers of foreign fingerprints all over this failed takeover. Certain people, with deep pockets and powerful backers, were reportedly involved. That plot might have failed, but it wasn't the first. Traoré's been dodging moves like this since he stepped into office. So this time he wasn't about to take any chances. By bringing in elite Russian forces, he sent a clear message. Enough is enough. He knows the clock is ticking, and if he doesn't protect himself and the people around him, it could all fall apart. The arrival of Russian troops marks a major change in how Burkina Faso is dealing with its problems. The arrival of Russian special forces in Burkina Faso isn't just for show. They're not there to stand around in fancy uniforms or salute at parades. These elite soldiers have a very clear job: keep President Ibrahim Traoré and his top officials alive, safe, and fully protected. They're also working behind the scenes to secure key government buildings, train local troops, and beef up security around the country's most important places. This isn't just about bodyguards, it's about building a wall of defence around an entire government. Their mission is to make sure that if anyone dares to try something, like another assassination plot, they'll face a fast, tough response. No delays, no chances. But the job goes beyond defence. Russian forces are actively training Burkina Faso's military. Not just drills or marching, but deep stuff. They're teaching how to gather intel, how to spot a threat before it strikes, and how to respond fast and smart. They're training soldiers to think like strategists, not just fighters. And this new military partnership, it's a big deal. It shows just how closely Burkina Faso is now working with Russia. Not just in war games, but in real decision-making. It's about sharing skills, building trust, and preparing for long-term challenges. But there's a bigger picture here too. The presence of Russian troops marks a major shift in Burkina Faso's international relationships. For a long time, the country leaned heavily on France. French troops were based there for years, supposedly helping to fight off extremists in the region. They were part of a bigger Western mission in the Sahel. But things have changed. Under Traoré, confidence in France began to fall apart. The promises didn't match the results. Instead of support, it started to feel like interference. And as Mali pushed the French out, many in Burkina Faso started asking, should we do the same? That's when Russia stepped in. Unlike the West, which often attaches strings to its military help, Russia came in with fewer conditions and allowed a promise. We'll stand with you, no questions asked. This move isn't just about training soldiers, it's about Burkina Faso choosing a new path, one that's less tied to old colonial ties and more focused on building partnerships that put the country's own interests first. Russia isn't just watching from the sidelines anymore, they're moving in, and they're doing it fast. While their soldiers help shield President Traoré from threats, something much bigger is unfolding across the Sahel. This isn't just about one leader or one country. It's about power, alliances, and who gets to call the shots in Africa's future. As more African countries grow tired of being told what to do by foreign governments, especially Western ones, many are now looking for partners that don't come with lectures or long strings attached. Russia sees that window, and it's diving right in. Russian special forces landing in Burkina Faso says a lot about where things are heading. Western nations have slowly pulled back from the Sahel, either frustrated by complex local conflicts or no longer seeing value in staying. But while they pack up, Moscow is unpacking. New boots on the ground, new deals, new promises. And it's not just soldiers, they're sending weapons, gear and trainers. They're working with governments that don't want to be babysat. Burkina Faso is right in the middle of all this, both geographically and politically. Sitting at the heart of the Sahel, it's a prime spot for anyone looking to influence what happens next in the region. By teaming up with Traoré, Russia is putting down serious roots. It's no longer just helping from a distance. It's becoming a real player in Africa's high-stakes game. A silent battle is happening here. One side wants to keep things the old way, with Western powers calling the shots. The other wants something new, something different. What makes this move even more dramatic is the timing. Burkina Faso is still struggling to get out of a storm of rebel attacks and political chaos. And while Russian help may bring short-term security, no one knows what the long-term effects will be. Will it bring peace? Will it cause more tension? But one thing is clear. Burkina Faso is no longer just reacting to outside forces, it's rewriting its story. And with Russia standing close, the story is about to change in a big way. Now here's the real question. Is Russia truly in this to protect Traoré? Or is there something more at stake? At first glance, teaming up with Russia might seem like a strange move for Burkina Faso. But once you peel back the layers, it actually makes a lot of sense. Think about it. Both countries have something in common. They're tired of being pushed around by powerful outsiders. For years, Burkina Faso has dealt with all sorts of problems, from political shake-ups to armed attacks. And every time things got messy, the so-called help from Western powers didn't really help at all. Many people in Burkina Faso feel like the West, especially France, has been more of a problem than a partner. Instead of true support, it often felt like control. French soldiers were stationed across the country, supposedly to fight terrorists. But over time, people started asking, whose side are they really on? Some even saw it as a quiet occupation dressed up as protection. Since Captain Ibrahim Traoré took over in 2022, the country has seen more than one coup attempt. And in the background of those uprisings, whispers of outside involvement, especially from groups seen as being backed by Western powers. That didn't sit well with the Burkinabe people. They began losing trust. Western promises sounded nice, but when it came to actually stopping the violence or helping the country stand on its own 2 feet, the results just weren't there. Operation Barkhane, the French-led mission meant to crush insurgents in the Sahel, didn't bring peace. If anything, the violence kept spreading. So now enter Russia. Unlike the West, Russia isn't coming in with long-winded lectures or complicated agreements. They're showing up with weapons, training, and a message that says, we'll help, No strings attached. That's a powerful message for a leader like Traoré, who wants to protect his country's independence without having to play by someone else's rules. To many in Burkina Faso, this feels like a fresh start, an alliance built on mutual respect instead of hidden agendas. Russia isn't trying to tell them how to run their country. It's offering backup while letting them stay in charge of their own future. Here's what's really going on behind the headlines. For years, Western countries have shown up in Africa with smooth-talking promises about protecting human rights, defending democracy, and keeping the peace. But let's be honest, many African leaders and citizens see through that. What's often hiding behind those promises is a grab for power, control over resources, and quiet interference in local politics. That's where Russia steps in, and why Burkina Faso is paying attention. Russia doesn't show up trying to be the world's hall monitor. Instead, it shows up offering something totally different: respect. A chance for African countries to do things their own way without being lectured or pushed around. By working with Russia, Burkina Faso isn't just asking for help. It's sending a loud and clear message. We're done being told what to do. We're choosing our own partners now. But it's not just about politics. There's money and resources on the table too. Burkina Faso is sitting on a mountain of valuable stuff, especially gold, and Russia knows it. That's why they're not only offering military support, but also looking to invest in roads, mining, energy, and more. They see the long game. And for Burkina Faso, this could be a game changer. Instead of relying on Western loans that come with fine print and finger-wagging, they might finally get real investment, money that helps build the country up instead of draining it dry. Russia's interest in Africa isn't new. For decades, it stood as a challenger to Western power, especially during the Cold War. That history still matters. Many African nations remember what it felt like to be colonies, and they're eager to break completely free from that legacy. So this partnership isn't just about deals or weapons, it's about pride, about rewriting the rules, about choosing allies who treat you like an equal, not a sidekick. To many African countries, Russia is starting to look like the kind of partner they've been waiting for. One that doesn't lecture, doesn't meddle, and doesn't treat them like second-class players on the world stage. Instead of packaging help with fine print and political strings, Russia shows up with a handshake and support that feels more like teamwork than control. And for a country like Burkina Faso, that message hits home. Burkina Faso's past is filled with heavy shadows: colonial rule, broken promises, and outside forces pulling strings. Even now, many people believe former colonial powers still have too much say in what happens inside their borders. That's why Russia's approach feels refreshing. It's not just about rejecting the West, it's about finding something that actually works. But let's be real, this partnership isn't just about feelings or symbolism. It's about survival. Burkina Faso is stuck in a dangerous situation. Armed groups are growing stronger, violence is spreading, and long-time allies in the West have been stepping back instead of stepping up. Promises have been made, but help has been slow, or full of conditions. So when Russia offered support without all the baggage, it felt like a lifeline. President Traoré and his team saw a chance to secure the country and hold the government together during a time of serious crisis. And it's not just Burkina Faso. Across the Sahel, the winds are shifting. As France and other Western nations pull out, pushed by protests and rising anti-colonial anger, Russia is stepping in to take their place. More and more African countries are looking east, turning to new allies like Russia and China who say, "We'll help you stand, and we won't tell you how to walk." Burkina Faso's new path might not just be about one country's future. It could be a preview of what's coming for the entire region. If things continue this way, Africa's global relationships might be heading in a totally new direction. Right now, everything is still uncertain. Burkina Faso is caught in the middle of chaos, and Captain Traoré's leadership is facing some of its biggest tests yet. Even though Captain Ibrahim Traoré has managed to dodge a number of coup attempts, and now has Russian troops backing him, his job is far from easy. He's not just fighting off rebels with guns, he's also dealing with political chaos, distrust inside his own ranks, and a world that's watching his every move. And the big question, can he keep it all together? Or will the pressure crack everything he's built so far? One of his biggest headaches comes from armed groups in the Sahel. These fighters are not only attacking soldiers, they're also hitting villages, taking over towns and forcing entire families to flee. Over 1 million people have been pushed from their homes. That's not just a security issue. It's a humanitarian disaster. Traoré's tried to fight back, and now with help from Russian commandos, he's added some serious muscle to his personal protection. These troops are some of the best Russia has to offer, and right now they're doing what they were sent to do, keep the president and his top officials alive. But staying in power takes more than bodyguards and firepower. If the root problems aren't fixed, things like poverty, bad roads, empty schools, and people feeling ignored by their own government, then no amount of foreign soldiers will keep the peace. The violence might slow down, but it won't disappear. Traoré's real challenge lies in reaching those forgotten areas, the places where people are more likely to trust a rebel leader than someone in a suit in the capital. They need jobs, hospitals, clean water, and most of all, hope that the future will be better than the past. One of the hardest things Traoré is dealing with right now is getting everyone in Burkina Faso on the same page. Ever since he took power, his government has faced pushback from all kinds of groups, activists, powerful politicians, even people inside the army. And to make matters worse, everyday life has become tougher for a lot of citizens. Prices are going up, services are breaking down, and the ongoing conflict is making it harder to fix anything. Sure, Traoré has his supporters, especially those who are fed up with the last government and its ties to France. They see him as a fresh start. But winning over the entire country, that's been a real struggle. Part of the problem is Burkina Faso's history. Military coups have become almost normal there. Every few years someone new takes over, and trust in leadership keeps falling. The army has played a huge role in politics, but instead of unity, it's caused deep divisions. Different military groups often work against each other, each one trying to grab control or prove they should be in charge. That tension hasn't gone away, not even with Russian support around the president. The recent failed coup proved that clearly. Some soldiers are still not on board with Traoré, and as long as that's true, the threat of another power grab never really disappears. For now, the Presidential Guard, Traoré's most trusted security team, has his back. But trust in the military as a whole is shaky, and holding that line won't be easy. And even beyond the fighting and political games, there's another huge issue: the economy. Violence has shut down farms, scared away investors, and disrupted gold mining, one of the country's biggest sources of income. Without stability, it's getting harder to keep the economy moving. Progress has slowed down, and people are starting to feel it in their wallets. Burkina Faso's gold is supposed to be a national treasure, but instead it's become a lightning rod for controversy. Over the years, people have accused those in power of mismanaging the country's gold wealth. Some even say the profits from gold aren't helping the nation, but instead slipping into the wrong hands. Meanwhile, big international players keep eyeing those same resources, hoping to get their own piece of the pie. Now Traoré and his team are stuck with a big question. How do you protect what's yours, make it work for your people, and still grow the economy? One possible answer has come in the form of Russia. Russia's not just sending soldiers, it's also shown serious interest in Africa's gold and minerals. For Burkina Faso, that could mean more than just security help. It could open doors to new roads, power plants, and mining deals. But there's a catch. To make this work, Traoré's government has to walk a very thin line. They need Russian support, without handing over too much control. The last thing the country needs is to swap one form of foreign domination for another. History's already shown what happens when outsiders profit more than the people living on the land. But this partnership with Russia isn't going unnoticed. France and other Western countries are watching closely, and they're not happy. To them, Traoré's shift looks like he's siding with a rival power, one that has its own ambitions in Africa. That's made Burkina Faso's position even more complicated. With France pulling back and Russia stepping in, the West may start closing its doors. Development aid, financial help, and global partnerships could become harder to secure if the country is seen as turning away from its former allies. But Burkina Faso isn't just dealing with politics, it's dealing with survival. Traoré now has a chance to build something stronger than what came before. But to do that, his government needs to dig deeper than alliances. It needs to fix what's broken at home, reform how things are run, invest in the people, and give citizens real reasons to believe that things can get better. For Traoré to truly turn things around, it's going to take more than speeches and soldiers. He's got to fix problems that have been around for years, like poor roads, weak healthcare, and not enough jobs for young people. On top of that, there are big human rights issues that need real attention, not just promises. At the heart of it all is one big challenge: how to protect Burkina Faso's independence while still working with powerful countries that all want a piece of the action. So now the big question is, can Traoré pull it off? Can he rise above the pressure, fix what's broken, and actually lead the country to a better place? What do you think? Will he come out stronger, or is there still a risk of losing everything he's built? Jump into the comments and tell us your thoughts.